Hello and welcome back to Armored Warfare with Gorlans Army. My name is Relix, and today I will be reviewing the T-64 Tier 4 Soviet main battle tank from the Murat Shishkin line. Now, the T-64, things to note about it is it's got the lowest amount of hit points of any of the Tier 4 main battle tanks, which we're going to get pretty used to here in the T-Series. It's got a max speed of 61 kilometers an hour, which is pretty good, but it takes a while to get there, 8 seconds to get to 32 kilometers, which is a long time. The camouflage is okay at 0.11 for a main battle tank. That's a very good camouflage rating. The vision is 360 meters, which is in between the Leopard and the M60. Hope I didn't just botch that. The cannon depression is a terrible 6 degrees, and we go from the T-62, the T-62's phenomenal turret traverse to this 23 degrees per second, which is ridiculously slow. You're not going to be able to engage targets in lighter tanks or AFVs like you would in the T-62. Instead, you'll be lumbering around slow and unable to do anything about them, really. 90% of the time, if you have a light tank or AFV get around you, you're going to die. The accuracy is 0.14, which is hideous, and the targeting time is 3.3 seconds, which is also pretty bad. You don't want to be sitting down there reloading the gun. Now, the good things about this tank are, one, its armor is vastly improved over the T-62's. You can now bounce equal-tiered shells off the front, which you couldn't do in the T-62. The turret is also a whopping 304 millimeters thick in the front, which is incredibly good. It's also a very low-profile tank, and so you can get it down into a hold-down position if you're a little creative with the surroundings. Now, the thing is, it still has this weaker lower plate, so if you can hide that, you're best off. It has a weak spot right here, but it's rare that people hit that. They don't seem to have... A lot of people don't seem to be aiming at that at this tier. The side armor of the hull is crap. You still can't side scrape in these things. If you are side scraping, you want to side scrape at an angle like this, so the tracks will probably eat the shot. And then the commander I use, of course, is Rashid Al-Atassi, which I use in all of my T-Series tanks now, simply because he gets the hull traverse, the turret traverse, increases module damage, and the reload time of the cannon goes down. We also get missiles later in the series, so Rashid Al-Atassi is probably the best commander for the T-Series that I can recommend. Now, for my crew, I have increased the hull traverse and the turret traverse for this tank, simply because they're so poor already, and I like my T-Series tanks to be very mobile, very accurate, and able to re-engage light tanks to get around them. I like them to be able to take care of themselves if they get rushed. The next two skills that I'll probably go for will be off-road driving, probably, and quick draw to reduce the aim time and to increase my acceleration off-road, which will help me with that long engine time that we had, 8 seconds. Now for the ammo, we get some really good choices here. You get the basic tier 4 choices. You have some heat, AP, and HE. And the thing with the T-64 is it gets really good ammo across the board. The heat is very good with 222 millimeters of penetration, which means if you manage to get the lower plate of another T-64, you can usually pen it with this. Don't shoot it into the side, because I believe there's some spaced armor there, as well as tracks really like to eat heat shells. If you get a side shot, go ahead and shoot AP. The AP shells have 267 millimeters of penetration, do 372 damage, which is phenomenal for AP shells. That's really good. The penetration is the best of the tier 4s, which is also par for the course in the T-Series. And the HE is very good at 279 damage and 20 millimeters of penetration. So if you find yourself against a higher tiered tank that you just can't penetrate, then go ahead, shoot HE into the turret ring, and that usually does a decent amount of damage. Or even shoot it under the tank, and it'll explode up through the bottom of the hull and do a good amount of damage for HE. That's about 150 per shot. Now the retrofits I have on this tank are the chrome barrel lining to increase my accuracy, and the internal hull reinforcement is really the only armor retrofit I like to go with at this tier, simply because I don't notice this thing getting ammo racked or engine blown off a lot. I don't notice the crew dying, so I just go for the maximum amount of hit points that I can. And for the consumables, you know me, I like my premium consumables. I don't like being on fire, and I also like the passives that they give to me. And that sums it up for the T-64. All in all, it's a very good brawler for its tier. It's Better than the T-62 was at brawling because it has the thicker frontal armor and it can bounce all sorts of shells off the front, especially if you get it down into a hold down position. You want to get this thing inside of a city. You don't want to be out in fields with it. If you're out in a field, you're probably going to get side-shotted or rear-shotted or surrounded and you'll die. If you can keep the front of this tank pointing towards the enemy, it's a very, very powerful tank with very good armor and a very good gun. That sums it up for the garage review, and I'll see you guys in the PvP battle test. Alright, hello and welcome back to the PvP battle test here on the Lost Island map, which is one of my favorite maps to play in the T-64. I have a really good hold down position I can use, and I'm going to show you guys how to use it so you can win on this map almost every time, especially if it's encounter. Now, we can see that on the enemy team they have some fairly good MBTs. They got a couple of starships, a couple of T-64, and an O-40. So I'm going to load AP right off the bat just to make sure I can get through the front of those tanks without worrying too much about it. Another reason why I load AP right off the bat is because it flies faster than the heat does, and it gives them less chance to pull back into cover before my shell hits. So we're going to come up here across the airway, and we're going to drive right into the cap circle. There's a downed plane we can get and hold down behind, which will prevent any of the enemy tanks shooting at our lower glaze weak spot, which means that we'll be practically invincible in that spot at this tier of a game. Here we are, just going to pull right up here, right into the cap circle, and behind this plane. Now, I'm going to note here, I'm not trying to cap to win, but I am putting pressure on the cap so that they have to come to me to reset the cap. They have to, otherwise they'll lose the game. This means that the southern and northern sides will be distracted. The enemies there will be distracted because they're worried about the cap going off. There's also that annoying alarm going off in your ear. I just got hit there from the O-40, 281 damage. I think that was the top hatch. They can get hits on your top hatch from this position. If you bounce a little bit, that should stop it. But as you can see, they're just kind of blazing away into me right now. I think the O-40 got lucky there. And we can pretty much tank everything from this position because they can only come at us from that way. And maybe from the southern end there's a little road up into the map. I usually keep my eye on that, but we can see that they don't have too many tanks down there. Just a T-62 and a T-62 vet. The O-40's firing back. Now what he's doing is he fires right into the gun because he sees a green reticle when it's there. And a green reticle means you can penetrate, but it also means that you may only do module damage if you're aiming directly at the module, so be aware of that. Only hit the tracks there on that Patton 48, and you can see that the enemy really can't do anything about me here. I also have a lot of allies with me, which helps split the damage up. It means that I won't absorb as much, and it means if they were all firing high explosive at me, which you should do to a T-Series tank in this position, you should just fire high explosive at it, then it's less likely that I'll die because they'll have other things to shoot at and other things will be shooting back at them. Now we can see that there's a T-62 vet trying to make its way up the southern end that I was talking about earlier, but we have an O-40 in position to counter him, and so we don't have to worry about it too much. We can just sit here and be ready for anything that comes up to try and take us. Now you can see our northern flank is doing very well. They're pushing right up along and have multiple angles on the tanks in there, so those guys will go down fairly soon. Trying to get a shot on that starship there. Doesn't look like I'll get it. So I'm just sitting in here with the cap with the other guys. I fixed my gun because T-Series with broken guns are very annoying. They're very, very inaccurate and hard to use. Is not the most exciting replay, but it proves how strong this thing can be in a hold down position. And I'm still sitting here because we don't have the supreme advantage yet. I want to be up about half of our tanks before I engage. So we're going to wait till they lose one more. We got the Dragoon 90 who was trying to cross the field there. Probably not his best choice. Now we have that advantage I was talking about, so I drove out of the cap circle, and I'm going to go hunting for that starship that was over here earlier to finish him off. There he is, and here the gun depression of the tank kind of gets me in a little trouble. Could have been a lot worse if the starship had a missile loaded. Put one into the side of him and go down, and now we can see that missile fly in, and there's the composite armor on this tank. It bounced a missile right off the turret from the starship, and the starship's missiles are pretty good. So that goes to show just how good the armor on this tank is, especially against those shaped charges. That one penned due to him aiming at the commander's cupola. Good play on him. And you can see it did full damage, which missiles will do when they hit the cupola on this thing. Our ally takes them out simply because they explode downward into the turret. Here we only got 2 guys left, so we're going to go ahead, rush, try to get ourselves into the cap circle before anything else happens. Get a few more cap points for that little bit of experience. You can see we've done 3,149 damage, and we didn't take any damage until we attacked the starship, and that's very critical to note. You don't want to take early damage in any vehicle. If you take early damage in your MBT, you're not going to be able to do it at the end where it counts, where you just really cannot afford to rely on your armor because that'll get you killed. So here we are, trying to drive back into the cap circle. Too slow. There's the victory. Solid win, 12-0. And well played. We'll take a quick look at the post-battle results screen. Here we go, did 3,000 damage, 864 spot damage, and about 2,000 experience. Second on the team in experience and first in damage done. Made 80,000 credits and played very well. If you guys liked the video, please go ahead and smash that like button. Don't forget to subscribe if you want more content like this, and I'll see you guys later.